Hey there again. Okay, today we're going to talk about mustard greens. This isn't quite as much a cooking tip as it is just how to cook something. These were harvested yesterday out of my husband's garden. Is that the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? Look at that. It's like a little bouquet of flowers. It is to me. So one thing that I'll tell you is when you have fresh greens, whether it's mustard greens, collards, turnip greens, chard, any of your greens, kale, that are on a stem, the best way to keep them in your refrigerator is to put them in something that you can put some water and have the stems be in the water. It will keep them fresh and crispy or tender, whatever, depending on the type of leaf that it is. But it just really will help them stay really super nice. Like I have one here I can feel, I don't know if you can see it, that's a little kind of droopy and soft. I can tell it wasn't down in the water. The stem didn't get in the water, so it's not quite as perky as the rest of them. So anyway, you can keep them like that in the fridge for a week and they'll be perfectly fine. We'll talk about expiration dates and throwing food away and the ridiculous culture that we're in of tossing food if it's more than a day old. It drives me insane. But anyway, back to the mustard greens. I'm going to turn the camera down, or try to without breaking something, and show you just kind of how I clean them and how I cut them up to get them ready. All right, so hopefully that's going to stay there and not fall off and break, but that didn't work out real well. All you got to do is just kind of strip them. Boy, these are being difficult. You can tell they're super fresh. You just want to get the big stems, the big chunky, that kind of stuff out. That's going to go in compost. Anything like that, or even a little bigger than that, is perfectly fine. It can be cooked down. That's going to be no problem. It'll cook down soft. You'll be able to eat it without any issue at all. Hopefully I'm doing this in the view of the camera and not out of it. It's hard to do it and see. But see, I'll just go through and strip these like this. Wow, they're not wanting to cooperate. And stack them up. And then after I get a decent little stack, I'll kind of come back and cut them up. And I'll show you that in 1 second. Good Lord, I got fumble fingers this morning. So you got it like this. I'll just go through here and cut right down the middle. So I've kind of got my two halves and then stack them like that. Do another cut down the middle and then just cut through them. There's nothing about it that has to be perfect. It's super simple. You don't have to worry about uniform sizes because they're all just going to cook down. If you've ever cooked mustard greens, they're real similar to spinach when you cook them. They just cook down kind of to a blob. But good golly, a big old pile of cornbread and some pork chops, pork roast. It's phenomenal. So then I'll just set these off to the side here and keep going with a few more. To prepare these, I'm going to pick up on a video in a little while and do that because I actually have 5 very, very large, I'm talking like 12 quart size containers of cleaned mustard greens in my refrigerator that we picked and cleaned and cut up yesterday that I'm going to cook and put in the freezer. So I just held these back so I could do a little video for you guys. Oh, you guys, it makes me sound like I'm a Yankee. What the heck was that? Anyway, but that is all there is to it. Super easy. There's a lot of different varieties of mustard greens. This, as you can tell, is a super curly leaf. I don't know the variety. I'd have to ask the hubby, and he's sitting on the deer stand right now, so that's not going to happen. Some of them, and I actually think I had a couple. Yeah, here's a different variety that was in our garden. See, it's a much different looking leaf. Very flat, very big, where this is like really tight and curly. But they taste the same, at least they do to me. You can tell they're mustards. If you're never sure, just kind of tear it and Smell it. You can smell the mustard. I mean, literally like you're smelling a jar of mustard. But anyway, you'll see different varieties at a farmer's market, or if you're buying them in the grocery store. Hopefully, if you're buying them in the grocery store, you're buying organic. Please buy organic. As much as you possibly can, because it's just the best thing. You don't want a bunch of chemicals in your food. You wouldn't set a bottle of Roundup on the table when you sit down to eat with your family and consume that. So why consume vegetables that have a bunch of Roundup on them and in them? And Roundup's just one of them. Glyphosate, it's just one chemical. There are so many, thousands and thousands, literally, of chemicals sprayed on our food every year. So that's that on how, and this one, I guess I kind of skipped over it. Exact same thing. Pull your stem out, lay it flat, slice them up, same exact procedure. So that's how you prep them. And in a little bit, I'm going to start a video on how to cook them. Okay, back with our mustard greens video. So I'm going to finish cleaning those greens over there, and then I'm going to get them in this pot. So this is just a stock pot, and I filled it about halfway full of water. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get these started while I finish cleaning my greens. Ham hocks. This is God's gift to the kitchen, God's gift to greens and beans. Mahaffey Farms, one of my favorite farms around. I buy lots of their ham hocks and cook with them. I'll show you a tip in another video about how to cook ahead with them, but for this use, what we're going to do, for the amount of greens I've got, I'm just going to put one of these hocks in here. I'm going to get this kind of bigger one. You see, it's smoked, it's amazing. Drop it down in the bag. I'll drop that in there. I'll add it to my other mountain of greens I have to cook. Turn my stove on. I always turn everything on super high until it gets hot, and then I turn it down. So get it on super high, let the water get really, really hot, start boiling a little bit, then turn it down. And then we're gonna simmer this kind of on a really low rolling boil for probably a good hour or so until it gets super tender. The meat is falling off the bone and the water has become a really, really nice pork stock. And then we'll pull it out, we'll pick the meat off, we'll add the greens and the meat back in, and then let it keep cooking. So I'll show that to you as well. But there are a lot of different ways to cook mustard greens. You can render down some bacon, throw some onion in there, add that to a pan, put your greens in with a little bit of water. You can do chicken stock, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I just personally like this way. And as long as I have time, which I typically make sure I do because I like it this way, then this is how I do it. So we'll come back in a little while after this has cooked down, and we're going to start doing the picking, and I'll show you what the stock looks like, and we'll add the greens, etc. Okay, so here are our ham hocks. Can you see those? Goodness gracious, I can't figure out this camera angle stuff. I cheated and threw some more in there so that I could do the rest of those mustard greens I got to do. But now that it's boiling good, we're going to turn it down to just see like a really light simmer. Just let it kind of just barely be simmering. I'm going to stick a lid on it, barely crack so a little steam can come out, and let it go for, I don't know, like I said earlier, an hour or so. I'll check it in about an hour, see how it's doing. And then if they're tender and coming off the bone, pull them out so that I can start picking them. And if not, let them keep going. So we'll let that go and then get back to it in a little while. All right, we're back with our mustard greens video. This is the ham hocks. See if I can show you that. The pot with the ham hocks. Look how beautiful that stock is. Ooh, these things are so tender, they are falling apart. I mean, you can see the meat's just kind of squirting out of the fat. I'm putting them over here in a bowl. Good golly, I cannot do this. So that I can pick them. This is terrible. All right, that's all. That pot is empty. So let's go back over here. I'm going to let these cool. Whoop, let me flip this. I'm probably making y'all seasick with this thing. It's about to make me seasick, and I'm not even the one looking at it. All right, I'm going to turn this down as soon as I turn this around. Gosh, I hope y'all stick with me because I promise this is going to get better. So this is a ham hock that I had pulled out to let it cool right before I got those. And you can see the ham hock's part of the leg of the pig. So that's all the skin and the fat that just comes off. That'll go in the trash. I mean, you can look in here, but you want to kind of feel around because that's like a strip of meat. And you have never had phenomenal pork until you've had ham hock. I mean, it's like part of the cheapest part of the pig, but my word, is it some of the tastiest. See, this is all good meat. Just throw that fat in there. I don't get all the fat off, but any kind of big loose chunks I will. So I'll pull that off, all this. This one was a really big meaty hock. Some have more meat than others, but they're all really good. Cooking them down with the bones, you get all of that good meat stock from the fat and the bones, and it's making my mouth water. It's ridiculous. Typically when I'm picking these things, it's like one piece in the pile, one piece in my mouth, but I won't torture y'all with that. But look at this. I mean, it is like the juiciest, sweetest ham you ever want to eat. The meat next to the bone on any animal is the best meat. Absolutely the best meat. That's why you want to make sure all your roasts are bone in. You don't want to get boneless roasts. Those are worthless. Obviously pasture raised. Same thing I'm going to say over and over. But look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, the color's gorgeous. I wish you could smell it. And I mean, tasting it is just unbelievable. So I'm not going to pick all the rest of these, but I will kind of bring this over so you can see the different sizes. I mean, the bones just literally pull out. Look at that. I mean, that's how tender this is. It's just like slips right out. But the different shapes, I mean, this one's about the same as that one I just did. Another bone just comes sliding out. These are a little more, or a little bit smaller. It has a bigger bone in it. You just pull that out. These are still a little hot. Owie. There's some of the meat. This one didn't have near as much meat as that one did. I mean, there's some more in there I'm going to dig around and get. But goodness gracious, if you have never fooled with a ham hock, you're missing out. I'm telling you. It's so good. So anywho, I'll quit fooling with this and do this later. Because I'm going to use a little bit of this ham hock and that stock in my mustard greens. And then I'm going to put the rest of it in the ginormous pot of mustard greens that I'm about to cook as well. So usually when I put it in greens, I'll kind of shred it a little bit. It's going to come apart some more when it's cooking, but just so I don't leave any huge chunks, which wouldn't hurt my feelings to get that in my plate, but got to share the wealth. So you want to kind of pull it apart a little bit, like that big old piece. Goodness gracious. So that's that. I'm going to move us over to the stove here in just a bit and get the greens going. I'm going to turn this off so I can go wash my hands. Okay, we're back at the stove. This is my pot of the pork stock that we just pulled the ham hocks out of. And I've got my colander over here with all the mustard greens that I had picked earlier. So we're just going to, look, they just sink down in that stock. You talk about flavor. So we're just going to add all these. And they'll just cook down, cook down, cook down. So I'm going to put this on here. Let me turn the stove on. I haven't done that yet. One thing that I typically do that I'm not going to be able to do this time because I'm out of them is I usually cook a pig ear with my ham hocks. Now before y'all all vomit and disconnect the video and ban me from ever being anything you watch again, let me explain. The pig ear, along with the ham hock, adds a tremendous amount of collagen and gelatin to what you're cooking. All right, here, pause that thought. Here's my ham hock. That's plenty for that size of a pot. Let's turn this up. Oh my gosh. Me and this thing are going to fight. I think I'm going to wind up hiring a cameraman just so I keep my dadgum sanity. But anyway, the hock and the ear add a lot of collagen and gelatin to your stock. So it just gives everything a really kind of silky and smooth texture. I mean, it makes a difference. They are so good. And these ham hocks are really nice, big bones, decent amount of fat. So they're going to do really well. But just putting that pig ear in there just kind of takes it up another level. I always add them to my beans, my dry beans, pintos, black beans, cannellini beans, lima beans. I mean, it doesn't matter. Any kind of bean that I'm going to cook, I'm going to put a pig ear in there. So what I'll do, just like I did with the ham hock, I'll just throw the pig ear in there and let it boil down. I don't necessarily cook them further in with the beans or the greens, because it will start falling apart after a while, which again, it's not the end of the world. It's just little bits of fatty flesh, but I'll pull them out like I do when I debone the ham hock, and then just have that broth be super rich and super nutrient dense, which just, golly, you just can't imagine. Well, you can't imagine if you've ever eaten greens or beans in a restaurant, because that's how I always cook them. So if that freaks you out, sorry, that's what you've been getting. But it does make a difference, and it really amps up the nutrition, which is, you know, pretty important to me. So let me show you what we got here. And I may wind up adding a little more stock to this, but I'm going to let it cook down some first. Turn my fire up a little bit. I'll add some salt and pepper. So with this amount, I'm probably going to do about 2 teaspoons of salt, a teaspoon of pepper. I am very much the believer in it's better to undersalt than oversalt, because everybody's tastes are different. Some people like a lot of salt. Some people don't like much salt. I'm not an anti-salt person, like it's bad for your health. I don't go there. I think it's very good for your health. But we just all have different taste buds. So if it's not salty enough, you can add salt. But if it's too salty, you're not getting it out. So I just prefer to go a little on the easy side and then let people add whatever they want to add. So I'm going to take this off of here. Oh. Okay, I may wind up stopping these videos before I ever get going good, because it's giving me such irritation over this camera and, you know, whatever. But there's the pot, there's the greens, what it looks like. They're so pretty and so vibrant. So I'm going to bring it to a boil. Like I said earlier, I do everything really high and then turn it down. So I'm going to bring it to a boil and then put the lid on, put the lid on now, turn it down and let it simmer for probably an hour at least. And then I'll check them and I'll taste them to see how tender they are, how the salt content is. Maybe add a little salt. If they're not real tender, I'll keep cooking them. If they are good, then I'll just let them cool down, and we're probably going to eat these tomorrow. Now this pot right here, check that mambo booger out. That thing is huge. I'm about to fill it full of mustard greens from those 5 bins I told you I had in my refrigerator that we picked and cleaned up yesterday. So I got to get these cooking as well. Exact same process, just more of it. So it'll be super easy. And for this one, here's a little tip for you as well. Since I'm using the pork stock from all those ham hocks in the smaller batch, yesterday, God, this will probably really gross you out, I made hog head cheese. Never done it before in my life, and wanted to, so I did. So my husband helped me. We cut up a hog's head. It was quite interesting. Boiled it for 4 hours with some chicken feet. Y'all are gonna think I'm nuts. Carrots, onion, bouquet garni, some peppercorns, let it cook down, picked it all, and made the head cheese with that, or fromage de tête, as they say in France. I like that sound better. It's that name better. It sounds better. But I've got a lot of really super, super rich pork stock left. So I'm going to use it for this tremendously large batch of mustard greens I got to cook. So that's another little tip for you. When you boil a chicken, and we'll have a video on that, cook ham hocks, cook anything, any kind of bones, any kind of meat that results in some type of meat or bone stock, save it. Save it and put it in a jar or a jug or a bag and stick it in your freezer and use it. It's awesome. Let me come over here. I'll show you what I have in my freezer. Gosh, this freezer's a train wreck. But here is, if you can see this is a gallon bag that I froze of stock from a ham that I cooked several months ago. And I've got a couple of jugs in there with stock. Anytime I have that stuff, I keep it. There's nutrition, there's flavor, there's always gelatin and collagen, which we all can use in our bodies. So I save that stuff and then use it. When I make a pot of beans, I'll pull that out because I need extra. One ham hock is not going to make enough for, a couple pounds of beans, so I'll use that. So anyway, me and my random tips, but that's just one of those helpful hints that never throw away anything. It's always usable, and you'll see that through the videos as we talk about other things. So I'm going to quit babbling, and I'm going to shut this off for now. Let my greens keep going for a while. We'll come back and we'll check them, and I'll keep you involved in that until they're to the point that they're done, and you can see what they look like and just drool because you won't be able to taste them. But they're going to be amazing. So I'll be back with y'all in a little while. Okay, we're going to finish up our mustard greens video. I got busy yesterday, got distracted, started doing other things, chasing other squirrels, my usual way of doing things, and forgot to bring y'all back in when I finished up the greens. And then it was super late after they simmered for an hour, a couple hours on the stove, I believe it was. Stuck them in the fridge overnight. So here they are. I wanted you to see the final product. Even though it's cold, you can still see what the color looks like. And I wanted to show you kind of the end result of the pork stock when it gets cold. Let me round. All right, there we go. So here are the greens just in a bowl. Look at that. You see how kind of thick and gelatinous that stock is? That is some good stuff. You want that gelatin texture in your stocks, whether it's pork, beef, or chicken, whatever it is, because that is such good stuff for your body. Oh, whoops, look at that. There's a bone I forgot to pull out from the ham hocks. No biggie. I'll get that when I package it up. But what I'm going to do with this, I do different things when I cook a bunch. Sometimes I'll put it in little small 16-ounce containers and freeze it. Then when I'm in a crunch for dinner, I can just whip one of those out, and it's about 3 good servings. So for me, my husband, and my youngest son. Or like in this case, I'm going to put all this in a gallon Ziploc because then I'll have a really good sized batch, and I can pull that out when I've got the kids over or company or whatever. But it just, I'll have different sizes frozen, so I can pull out whatever works for whatever my need is. So anywho, that's the end of mustard greens. If you've never done it, give it a shot. All it takes is time. Super easy to do. It just takes a little bit of time, which, while you're piddling around on a weekend day or a day off work or whatever, you can let those cook and go on the stove, let your ham hocks simmer and do those, and it's so good. So, hope you enjoyed. I hope you try this, and we'll chat again later.